Ray Richardson.
The Clippers are getting more comfortable in their new home, the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. They beat Orlando last night 104-93 for their sixth straight home win. The Clippers started the season losing their first four at home. James Harden led the Clippers with 24 points. The Lakers are back in action tonight. They play Orlando at Crypto.com. The Lakers' six-game winning streak is the longest current streak in the Western Conference. At 10-4, the Lakers have the third best record in the West. Former Chargers tight end Antonio Gates is among 25 finalists for the class of 2025 in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Gates, a three-time All-Pro, played all 16 of his NFL seasons with the Chargers. His 116 touchdown catches is the most for a tight end in NFL history. Put that man in the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame selections will be announced during Super Bowl week in New Orleans. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join us in celebrating the season of giving by being part of the solution. As we enjoy great food, family, warmth, and well wishes in whatever our festive tradition may be, we share the beauty of the season by reaching out to the less fortunate. Please help us to help others with the KBLA Cover the Houseless Cozy Community Coat and Blanket Drive. All you have to do is drop off new or clean, gently used winter coats and blankets in the KBLA lobby during business hours. Now through December 20th, all of the coats and blankets will be donated to unsheltered individuals and families experiencing houselessness. Simply bring your donation to 4434 Crenshaw Boulevard in Los Angeles, near Vernon Avenue, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays. That's 4434 Crenshaw in historic Leimert Park. During the holidays and every day, let's remember, we keep us safe. We keep us warm. We are the safety net, and together we can cover the unsheltered. Get caught up in the spirit of the season, the spirit of love. Make a difference with your friends at KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Tavis, Smiley, delighted to have you with us in this hour of our program. And in this hour, a conversation with Pulitzer Prize-winning black investigative journalist Corey Johnson on his latest ProPublica investigation, Without Knowledge or Consent, which reveals how the gun industry and Cambridge Analytica exploited customer data to elect pro-gun candidates. I do not need to tell you that the last thing that black folk in particular need are more pro-gun elected officials, given the alarming death by gun rate inside of black America. So I digress on that point. I am pleased to welcome Corey Johnson to this program. Corey, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing well, Tavis. How about yourself?
Man, if I complain, I'd be an ingrate. I'm doing well, and I'm delighted to have you on for the hour. There's a lot to talk about. Let me just jump in, and I'm always curious about the backstory. Then we'll work our way through this hour. This subject matter, I find interesting. It's even more interesting for me that a black investigative journalist finds this subject matter interesting enough to dig into it, to write a piece about it. Tell me your interest in the storyline, in the narrative first, and we'll jump from there.
Yeah, that's a great way to start. So, people think that journalists don't have feelings and that we're not human beings, and at least in my case, that's far from being true. Mm-hmm. And this story kind of launched right after the horrible tragedy at Uvalde, mm-hmm. which had come behind, the horrible tragedy in Buffalo, where those black customers were gunned down in that supermarket. Mm-hmm. And I was looking at both of those tragedies, and like everybody, I was crying and pacing and trying to figure out, how in the world did we get here? How did this country get here to where kids and innocents could literally be slaughtered, and we could see images of police kind of cowering and hiding behind the wall as they hear, bullets shredding these babies' bodies. And politicians could just shrug their shoulders over it. And that question just didn't sit right in my spirit. I kept saying, man, I need to know more about how this country got here, how it get to this place. And that was the energy that led me to kind of launch. And I started off really just trying to do historical work. Has it always been this way? And if it hadn't always been this way, what happened to change it to where we're in this place now where there just can't be anything done of any real consequence? And I can tell you that, it was painstaking, Tavis. I knocked on doors up and down this country, as well as spent several weeks in Europe, knocking on doors, trying to get anybody who might have any involvement or any sense of how we got here to talk to me. And it was over that period of time that people started to tell me about this program and urged me to look closer into this program where the gun makers were taking people's confidential information and passing it along to lobbyists in order to get this done.
I didn't know what the answer to that question was going to be about what brought him to this story, but he answered it brilliantly. And I understand, and you understand better now, why this story means so much to Corey Johnson. As he was laying out all that he did to bring the story to us, I kind of smiled because that's what it takes to win a Pulitzer Prize. You don't win one of those without doing a whole lot of painstaking, to use his word, painstaking research to bring these stories to the fore. And so we congratulate Corey Johnson, first of all, on being a winner of the Pulitzer Prize as a black investigative journalist. We'll get to that part a little bit later. I'm fascinated by the backstory of his personal life in this particular field. But he's done some amazing work here to bring us this story without knowledge or consent, which again reveals how the gun industry, along with a company called Cambridge Analytics, exploited consumer data to elect pro-gun candidates. Now that you understand better, as do I, why and how Corey got so passionate about it, I was laughing also as Corey was talking. I said Corey's both guest and host, because he's asking all the questions that I want to ask. How did we get here? Has it always been this way? If it hasn't always been this way, how did it turn this way? He has questions that he went in search of answers to for his piece. I've got questions for the rest of the hour, and I'm delighted to have Corey Johnson on for the rest of the hour. We will continue this dialogue, really get into the thick of it when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From California to the Carolinas, everybody's listening to Tavis. More when we come forward.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
As a mom, comforting my family is what I do best. Vicks Vapor Stick provides soothing, non-medicated Vicks Vapors in an easy-to-apply stick. And it dries fast, so there's no mess. I use it to comfort myself and my family.
Thanks, Mom.
Vicks Vapo Stick, soothing comfort for the whole family. And when you need more comfort for yourself, try Vicks Vapo Shower Max for steamy Vicks Vapors. Use as directed. Vapo Stick for use ages 4 and up. Vapo Shower Max use for adults only.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Saline from Vicks.
Sinex Saline nasal spray?
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Saline instantly clears everyday congestion associated with colds and year-round allergies with a gentle, ultra-fine mist that's no mess and easy to control.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Enjoy life's important moments without congestion. Try Sinex Saline from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. which is why when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million-plus products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away, so the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I occasionally have nerve discomfort in my hands, so the things I love to do...
Let's play something, Grandma.
...became difficult as I got older.
If you have occasional stabbing and burning in your hands and feet, try Nervive Nerve Relief. Nervive's clinically studied dose of alpha-lipoic acid reduces occasional nerve discomfort in as little as 7 days with continued daily use. Say yes to healthy nerves with Nervive Nerve Relief.
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and the Pulitzer Prize-winning brother, investigative journalist Corey Johnson. For years, America's most iconic gun makers secretly handed over sensitive personal information, names, addresses, and more of hundreds of thousands of customers to Washington lobbyists who used those details to rally firearm owners to elect pro-gun politicians. In his blockbuster ProPublica investigation, Without Knowledge or Consent, Corey Johnson reveals how this clandestine and, I think, illegal sharing of gun buyers' intimate details has and will, for the foreseeable future, impact the nation. Miles, let me pull this. I want to play this Donald Trump clip. Speaking of how this is going to impact the nation, Donald Trump has spoken any number of times, of course, about this concealed carry issue. And as you know, if you follow Trump, he has bounced back and forth on this issue. He's upset the gun industry, NRA at certain points. Other times he's embraced them, more of the latter than the former. But here's just a taste of what Donald Trump has had to say about concealed carry. And I'm raising this issue now to sort of frame this conversation about the way that what Corey reveals in his story is going to impact us as a nation in the months and years to come under Donald Trump 2.0. Play it, Miles.
Last month, our hearts were shattered by news of the monstrous attack on a Christian elementary school in Nashville that claimed the lives of 3 adults and 3 precious children. Today, we wrap those beautiful families in our love and we lift them up in our prayers. Year after year, Democrats in Washington continue to hold common sense school safety measures hostage to their radical gun control agenda, which in virtually all cases would do nothing to prevent attacks by demented and disturbed individuals, of which we have many, and many are coming into our country. Our country has been chock full of guns for centuries, and there was no talk of massacres of school children until around the year 2000. That's when it really started. They started talking about it. This is not a gun problem. This is a mental health problem. This is a social problem. This is a cultural problem. This is a spiritual problem. I will ask Congress to repeal totally ineffective legislation that makes it harder to protect our schools and easier for criminals to face absolutely no opposition when they go in. For about $12 billion, we could fund armed security guards at the entrance to every school in America and also arm every willing teacher. We want to arm some of these teachers.
That was Donald Trump telling you some months ago what he was going to do if he, in fact, was reelected, and we now know that he has been reelected. He said this is not a gun problem. You heard him. He wants to repeal legislation. You heard him. And so I expect Donald Trump to do exactly what he said he was going to do. Put a pin in that for now. Again, we'll bring this thing full circle. I'm playing that because I want you to understand as we move through this hour how what Corey Johnson is going to tell you that he discovered is going to impact us under a Trump administration in the months and years to come. That's the frame that we're in. Having said that, I am now going to stand down, Corey Johnson, turn my microphone off, and let you answer some of the questions that you posed, not at all rhetorically, at the start of this conversation. Before I get into the details specifically of what these iconic gun makers with Cambridge Analytica actually did, what did you learn to that historic question about the way things used to be, how we got here, when the turn actually happened? You heard Donald Trump reference 2000. Clearly, It was before then. But just let me just stand down and give you an opportunity to tell us how we got here. Answer your own question for me.
Yeah, so that is the perfect other way to transition to this. This absolutely did not start in 2000. It actually started in California in 1989 with a shocking shooting that happened, at an elementary school where, a drifter came in and killed a bunch of kids, which with a high-powered gun. And the conversation captured the entire nation then about, having these weapons and that have such a lethal force. What can we do to limit this? And that shooting started the conversation, and then other shootings furthered the conversation. So there, if you recall, which I'm sure you will, you were there, crime was high, and the conversation around gangs and crime and guns was a political topic that absolutely was important to the Clinton White House. It was important in the legislature, and it was a different time then. At that time, when kids got killed, politicians and the public were on one accord. Didn't matter whether you were a Republican or a Democrat. The parties kind of came together to limit these weapons, to say, hey, it doesn't make sense for these high-powered weapons to be out in the street to where, they can do such maximum damage to people. And this really shook the gun industry at its core. California and other states in D.C., they passed laws not only to ban assault-style weapons, but to even hold the gun makers accountable for them being out here in these streets. And that, combined with the traction that was happening politically, combined with the financial stagnant behavior that was happening with gun sales in the 90s, there have been many, many years where gun sales just really weren't profiting in that way. And then another piece that was key to all of this, the tobacco industry had just had to pay out millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars in settlements from lawyers who sued after finding that the tobacco industry had played a role in addicting America. And many of those attorneys then turned around and looked at the gun industry and began to partner up with cities to file lawsuits against the gun industry to accuse them of playing an outside role in crime. And those lawsuits really, combined with everything else, made the gun industry, particularly an organization called the National Shooting Sports Foundation, which represents gun companies. It's the name you don't know, Tavis. Most people, when you talk about this topic, their mind immediately goes to the National Rifle Association, more commonly called the NRA.
Sure.
But what people don't know, that the NRA represents gun owners. The National Shooting Sports Foundation represents the gun companies themselves, the ammo makers, the weapons makers, and people of that ilk. And NSSF has kind of stayed in the background. This is why this reporting was so shocking to us, that while you focus your energies on the NRA, the NSSF has been secretly running this operation. And this turn of events that happened in the 90s around school shootings and other mass shootings, which threatened them so, made them make this fateful choice to let's turn around and let's figure out a way to build a protection force inside of government, inside of the White House, inside of the Congress, that can reverse where we are at this point in history.
Let me jump in here. You're telling this story beautifully, and I hate to interrupt, but there are a couple things I want to just make sure we're on the same page about. Let me just ask you a point blank question, and I don't know that I've ever asked this question as directly as I'm going to ask it now of any particular guest, but you are the perfect person to ask us of, given what you've just said. How much of what we have seen and discussed ad infinitum, ad nauseum, around guns in America, even though Donald Trump says we ain't got a gun problem, how much of this conversation at its heart for the industry has really been about increasing gun sales, making sure, as you mentioned, that those numbers that were lagging at one point came back up? So let me just ask you point blank, how much of this is really about gun sales?
It's a hard question to definitively answer because a lot of the numbers these companies keep secret. But absolutely, in the interviews that I've done, the profits, the lagging profits, and the existential threat is the language that was used to me, that politics was having on these businesses was absolutely top of the mind when the industry started to launch this program. Absolutely top of the mind. In fact, they were being so bold as to say, even to different interviewers, that if one of these city lawsuits were successful, we wouldn't have a gun industry anymore. They were literally, saying the sky was falling, and they believed that the sky was falling in the mid to late 90s when they decided to launch this program.
Let me ask you, have you discovered anything in your research? And again, I'm pressing my way. We're working our way toward the heartbeat, if you will, of this article, the essence of the article, the epicenter of it. But in your reporting, have you discovered any evidence of that would tell us how the industry, the gun makers, to your point, this organization that protects them, that represents them, and not the NRA. What do you know about how they processed these kids and these innocents? That's your phrase, these kids and innocents being killed. And I ask that because we're going to get later to this notion that you raised also earlier of police cowering when they're on location in Uvalde and other places. That's a whole other issue, just the way the police have responded or not, as it were, number one. And then I want to take us back to Sandy Hook. I've said many times that I knew that America was never going to get serious about the gun problem when they let those little white kids get killed in Sandy Hook. If you can turn a blind eye to black kids being killed, that's one thing. Brown kids being killed, Uvalde, that's another thing. But when you turn a blind eye to white kids, when the industry, the gun makers, turn a blind eye to white kids being killed in Sandy Hook, that made a huge statement to me as a guy who's covering this as a broadcaster, not an investigative reporter like you, Corey. But that thing hit me so viscerally. I'll never forget that. It just became so abundantly clear to me they really don't care about this issue when their kids, white kids, are being killed. So that's a long way of asking whether or not you know anything, have come to understand anything better about the way internally they were processing or not. Were they cavalier about it? What were they saying? How were they processing kids and innocents being killed?
So I have had some conversations with people who worked at NSSF, which its headquarters at the time of Sandy Hook, you mentioned Sandy Hook, was in Newtown. Their building and their headquarters were roughly less than 3 miles away from the school where that awful tragedy happened. And so it impacted many of the employees there in a really deep way. Many of them knew people or families who had kids who were killed. And so it was a crisis of conscience for quite a few people. That being said, gun makers and some of the conversations I've had have always kind of had a separate mind or dual mind around this. They believe strongly that what they sell is a tool, and in the hands of the right person, it's a tool of good, and in the hands of the wrong person, it could be a tool for not. But they will often say that it's not their responsibility, but society's responsibility or the police's responsibility to deal with the criminal who wants to use these weapons. And they will often say to me and others that they encourage gun safety and all these programs that would teach people how to safely and responsibly handle a gun. And so when these shootings occur, many of them kind of retreat to that stance, that it's not us, but it's other people who are responsible for misusing our product.
Yeah. All right, I'm watching my clock here. I've got 3 minutes now. We'll continue when we come forward. In these next 3 minutes, let me just do this. I want to make sure that we understand who the players are here. Then we'll let you connect the dots for us. So in the next 3 minutes, tell the audience about Cambridge Analytics. This story is about how the gun makers secretly worked with this company to call this data, and then they did their dirty deeds with it. But just take a moment here right quick in the next 2.5 minutes to tell us about Cambridge Analytics.
So the company named Cambridge Analytica was a American affiliate of a British company called SCL Group that for years were kind of a political consultant whose job was to basically help win elections and to influence elections in the third world. Mm-hmm. And what we discovered, and I'll be able to get in more detail in the days and weeks ahead because we have a separate story coming out soon looking at Cambridge Analytica in more detail. Mm-hmm. But what happened, this database that got created in 2000 and used by the National Shooting Sports Foundation to do this election work, a contractor gave Cambridge Analytica 20 years of warranty card data from customers and another database filled with customers from a store called KBLA, which is a popular outdoor sporting goods store that has about 70 locations in America and in Canada. And they turned this data over to Cambridge Analytica, who then took those names and addresses and matched it with other data that you can purchase from companies who specialize in buying up data from the marketplace. So we're talking companies that are buying up data from your grocery store, from your bookstore, from your clothing store, from your shoe store. Mm-hmm. They're buying up data on what properties you purchased. They're buying up data from your credit cards, from the cruises you went on, to the flights you've taken. And so what Cambridge did, using algorithms and scientists, they took those names, addresses, matched them up with those people's purchases, and then developed deep psychological and behavioral profiles and then classified people, broke them down into various classifications, and then created special messages with words and images tailored to respond to the psyches of the people in these groups to get them to vote on behalf of Donald Trump and as well as 9 senators.
Hold that thought. Donald Trump and 9 senators. For those of you who think it's a joke when people talk about the deep state, maybe you're not laughing so much right now. So that's who Cambridge Analytica is. Now you have a sense of what they did to help Donald Trump and 9 others get elected. We'll get into that part of the story. The details when we come forward with Corey Johnson on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good.
Yeah, man.
Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know the United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time? Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know from BIN News. A new poll shows 41% of likely Democratic voters prefer Vice President Kamala Harris as the 2028 presidential nominee over California Governor Gavin Newsom and Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, despite her recent election loss. Texas Governor Greg Abbott announced more giant buoys will be heading to the Rio Grande to deter illegal crossings. The Justice Department sued to remove the barrier, citing humanitarian and environmental concerns. President-elect Donald Trump has nominated Michigan Republican Party Chairman Peter Hoekstra as U.S. Ambassador to Canada. Hoekstra, who served 2 decades in Congress, was also chairman of the U.S. House Intelligence Committee. And President Biden is hosting the 2024 NBA Championship Boston Celtics at the White House today. Their victory over the Dallas Mavericks earned them an 18th title, breaking the tie with the LA Lakers for the most championships in NBA history. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
Lowe's knows you want to get even more value for the holidays. That's why, as a My Lowe's Rewards member, you get new member deals every week on holiday decor, tools, and more. Program subject to terms and conditions. See Lowe's.com/terms for full details. Subject to change.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers are getting more comfortable in their new home, the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. They beat Orlando last night 104-93 for their 6th straight home win. The Clippers started the season losing their first 4 at home. James Harden led the Clippers with 24 points. The Lakers are back in action tonight. They play Orlando at Crypto.com. The Lakers' 6-game winning streak is the longest current streak in the Western Conference. At 10-4, the Lakers have the 3rd best record in the West. Former Chargers tight end Antonio Gates is among 25 finalists for the class of 2025 in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Gates, a 3-time All-Pro, played all 16 of his NFL seasons with the Chargers. His 116 touchdown catches is the most for a tight end in NFL history. Put that man in the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame selections will be announced during Super Bowl week in New Orleans. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down, get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
For older adults in LA County, staying connected is more important than ever. Free Wi-Fi access helps you keep in touch with loved ones, stay informed, and manage your health through telehealth services. Whether video chatting with family, following news, or accessing health info, the internet is here to help. Don't miss out. Find your connection at libraries, parks, and community centers. To learn more about these resources, visit lacountyandU.com. That's lacountyandU.com.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Made fresh daily in Leimert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Pulitzer Prize-winning brother, investigative journalist Corey Johnson. There's a powerful piece for ProPublica that we are discussing in this hour. It's called Without Knowledge or Consent. It details how the gun industry and a company called Cambridge Analytica exploited customer data to elect pro-gun candidates, including Donald Trump and 9 others. We'll get to that detail in just a second. Just some quick facts here about Americans and guns. This data comes from the Pew Research Center. Just some stuff I think you might find of interest. About 4 in 10 U.S. adults, 4 in 10, say they live in a household with a gun, including 32% who say they personally own a gun. This is not Pew. I'm adding on to this because I know there's some other data. The fastest growing group of gun purchasers these days happen to be folk who look like you and me, black folk. Maybe we'll get to that with Corey later in this conversation, but black folk are buying guns like nobody's business, and the data points that out. Back to Pew. Personal protection tops the list of reasons gun owners give for having a firearm. A majority of Americans, 61%, say it's too easy to legally obtain a gun in this country. So many of us have guns. I don't. But a majority of Americans, 61%, say it's too easy to legally obtain a gun in this country. So we seem to be in agreement about that fact. About 6 in 10 U.S. adults, 58%, favor stricter gun laws. We'll get to Corey in a moment in this dialogue about that part. Every time I read this data, that most of us think that it's too easy to get, that most of us think, according to Pew, 6 in 10, believe that we ought to have stricter gun laws. We can't get there, even though most of us agree with that. Enter the gun lobby. But most of us see things a little bit differently than they do. I digress for now. Finally, about half of Americans, 49%, see gun violence as a major problem. About half of us see this as a major problem, although you heard Donald Trump say earlier in the clip we played that this ain't a gun problem. America does not have a gun problem, said one Donald Trump. I digress on that for now. Just some factoids that I thought you would find of interest. Now, back to Corey Johnson. Again, Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter whose piece is in ProPublica, and it's called Without Knowledge or Consent. So now we're at the sweet spot here, or well, I shouldn't call it the sweet spot, but this is the interesting part for me and many of our listeners, I suspect, Corey, which is what the gun makers did with Cambridge Analytica to aid and abet the campaigns of Donald Trump and 9 others. Take it away.
Well, so I should say that the data that we're reporting on is relevant to the 2016 election.
Sure.
We're still trying to know more about what happened in 2020 and what happened in this current election. Mm-hmm. But what we're reporting on now was relevant to 2016, which was a huge shock to America and the world that someone like Donald Trump could defeat someone like Hillary Clinton. And what's important to know about this push to even lean on Cambridge Analytica, Robert Mercer, wealthy right-wing billionaire, and Steve Bannon were heavily involved with Cambridge Analytica. Even Steve Bannon ended up being like an executive at some point with Cambridge Analytica. And the energy, their thrust was they felt and many others in the Republican movement felt that President Barack Obama had outworked and out-data used them, so to speak, in 8 years prior, that Obama and his campaign had brilliantly used social media for their election purposes in a way that the Republican side hadn't even foreseen. And so coming into 2016, they were really trying to supersize their efforts in order to defeat Hillary Clinton, which at that time, Hillary, for many people in the gun industry, represented a return to Bill Clinton's policies, which is, you recall, as I was mentioning in our earlier part of the conversation, during the 90s, the Clinton White House and the reforms that they were pushing were seen as the potential death knell and the motivating factor for the industry to do the secret program in the first place. So when they saw Hillary come in, they didn't like it. And during that election, there were 25 or 30 seats that Republicans were having to defend in the Senate, that if they lost the Senate and the White House, gun reform could have been supercharged, and this conversation around assault weapons bans could have turned in a radically different way. At least that was the belief or the thought. And so the National Shooting Sports Foundation reached out to Cambridge Analytica and gave them this data and paid them to use whatever mojo they had, their computers. They had a ton of data scientists and PhDs and high-powered computers to use whatever at their disposal to be able to affect a win for Donald Trump and for key senators in the key states that the NSSF thought were crucial to being able to keep the Senate in their hands. And I've had a chance to talk with some of the folks who worked on that campaign for Cambridge Analytica, as well as see emails and documents. They believe that what they did worked. And they believe they were tremendously successful.
And tell me exactly here, watching my clock here, tell me exactly what they did. So we know they had the data. We know they had names, addresses, and more of thousands, hundreds of thousands, I should say, of customers that these lobbyists were able to use to rally firearm owners to elect these pro-gun politicians. But what specifically did they do?
So what this program and what Cambridge did was, once they got the names and developed the behavioral profiles, and they then looked at creating messages and images that would connect with these folks to get them to go their way. And once they had the names, they partnered with Facebook. So most people, when they know about Cambridge Analytica, it's in the context that Cambridge had received all this data from Facebook and had improperly exploited it. But the other part that they did with Facebook is, once they had names of people they could target, they turned to Facebook and other social media accounts. Facebook then gave them the addresses for people that they found matches to. And so then suddenly one day, these people, when they logged on to Facebook, a Cambridge Analytica message around voting for one of these senators or voting for Trump instantly popped up on their accounts. Now, they didn't know it was coming from Cambridge Analytica, but that's who had sent it. And likewise, in the mail, and plenty of your listeners who are gun owners may remember this, if they have received any kind of letters or postcards in the mail encouraging them to go out and protect the Second Amendment, or this candidate is anti your guns, this candidate is for your guns, they may have been in one of these databases, and that's how they were able to receive these messages in the first place. The power that this secret program gave the gun industry is that most people who are involved in elections can't get the information on who owns guns. That's something that the gun industry has fought for years to keep confidential. But while they were, fighting to pass laws to keep gun owners' names secret, they were secretly themselves compiling them and using them to do these mailers, to do these messages,
and to get Trump and these other 9 others elected. I get it. I can see clearly now, as somebody wrote in a great song. His name is Corey Johnson. He's a Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter. His latest piece for ProPublica is called "Without Knowledge or Consent." It details, in case you've just tuned in, how the gun industry and Cambridge Analytica exploited customer data to elect Trump and other pro-gun candidates. More of this story when we come forward with Corey Johnson on Tavis Smiley.
Generous listening.
Charitable listening.
That's why everybody wants to talk to Tavis. The conversation continues when we come forward.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well-trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
I was so excited when I heard the sandwich was back. What's up? This is Mike.
And this is Celia.
And a little thing we love about the Chick-fil-A Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich
is the symphony of flavors. You can always count on that crispy, tender, juicy chicken. It's so good.
My favorite part is the pimento cheese. Topped off with the honey, it all comes together perfectly. I like the original.
I like the spicy chicken fillet. But either way,
you're getting a winner.
The Chick-fil-A Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich is back with a bite. Try it with the original or spicy fillet, now for a limited time. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
The smarter way to clean your floors. It's time to make the swap. Swiffer Power Mop.
Introducing the new Swiffer Power Mop, the all-in-one tool that gives you a mop and bucket clean in half the time. The solution's built right in, so no heavy bucket, and the pad has hundreds of scrubbing strips to get deep into grout. Don't mop harder, mop smarter.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
You brought us some fascinating detail in this story without knowledge or consent, Corey Johnson. I'm watching my clock. It's getting tight on time here. Let me just ask you point blank, whether or not any of what you have detailed to us in this conversation, greater detail, of course, in the article itself. You can find it at ProPublica. Without knowledge or consent is the name of the piece. Was any of this that you've detailed for us in this hour illegal, Corey?
So that's a wonderful question. So it turns out it may have been. There is a law, the Federal Trade Commission Act, Section 5, governs what they call deceptive or unfair business practices. And the federal government through the Federal Trade Commission enforces this particular law, but then several states have adopted that same language in state laws, which are prosecuted by the attorney generals and the consumer protection divisions of those offices. And what experts and even some of these regulators are saying to me, that companies absolutely must follow their privacy policies and the language on these warranty cards. So if you bought a gun and the warranty card said, we do not give out your information. Mm-hmm. We keep your information confidential. But then they ended up turning your information over to the NSSF. Experts say that is a clear-cut violation of the law. In other cases, because we looked at several of these cards, if the cards say, well, we can give this information to a third party, but for sales purposes or to keep our website updated, and they turned around and gave it to the NSSF, that too constitutes a deceptive practice under the law. Now, the question of whether federal authorities and state authorities are going to do something, that's a question that's beyond me. But I can tell you I'm hearing things. I'm hearing great interest on the state and federal level about the story.
Well, if you find if you have the right DAs, the right AGs, it's the kind of thing that they can certainly advance. What this piece that Corey has written uncovers is that these 10 industry businesses, including Glock, Smith & Wesson, Remington, I just want to call their names, Glock, Smith & Wesson, Remington, Marlin & Mossberg, these are some of the companies that handed over this private data to the industry's chief lobbying group, the National Shooting Sports Foundation, that Corey Johnson referenced earlier in this conversation. Just wanted you to get a sense of some of the high-powered names who were involved in this, what may have been illegal effort to target voters and to get Trump and 9 others elected. I digress for now. Our remaining moments with Corey Johnson when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Why does Tavis say when we come forward? Because he's not going back. And you don't have to go back either. Forward ever, backward never. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
Are you an entrepreneur looking to take your business to new heights? KBLA Talk 1580 is your partner in success. Every day, we celebrate and elevate Black-owned businesses across our community. Our KBLA SMB Marketplace currently features The Cookie Dip, Badass Bakes, Hair Concoction, Higher Education Accreditation Consulting, LACC Radiology Technology Department, and Malik Books. Your business deserves to be heard. Let KBLA Talk 1580 amplify your voice and connect you with our powerful community of listeners. Email smb@kbla1580.com today. That's smb@kbla1580.com. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. The Live Your Life organization mentors young women, helping them break negative mindsets and see beyond their surroundings. Through career exposure and hands-on training, they're encouraged to think big, stay focused, and make positive choices. Founded by Nikisha Mama Boo Smith, who transformed her life to become a community leader, Live Your Life is changing lives, but they need your help. They're raising funds to keep their new building open and expand their programs. Your donations will support food, clothes, hygiene products, and holiday giveaways. Visit liveyourlife32.com. That's LIVEYOLIFE32.com to help today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed. Our guest in this hour has been, and how grateful are we for his downloads and insights. His name is Corey Johnson, Corey G. Johnson to be exact. He's a Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter. We have had the opportunity this hour to discuss his latest ProPublica investigation. It's called Without Knowledge or Consent, about how, once again, the gun industry and Cambridge Analytica exploited customer data, including perhaps some of yours, to help elect pro-gun candidates, including Donald Trump and 9 others. In the 3 minutes I have left, Corey, I want to bring this thing full circle if I can with this tight 3 minutes, by asking you the following. Now that you've done all of this, how, in retrospect, do you see differently those police cowering that you referenced earlier in Uvalde and in other places as these bullets are flying? And how, in retrospect, now do you see politicians who shrug their shoulders at these issues? How, in retrospect, do you hear Donald Trump saying that America does not have a gun problem? The last 2.5 minutes belong to you, sir.
Well, what this reporting tells me is that for the last 20 so years or more, this process, this project has been happening in the background, and both the gun industry and, by and large, the Republican Party have benefited from this. This project has helped get predominantly Republicans elected to office, and vice versa. When they get into office, they work very hard to not only defeat any kind of legislation that would restrict or hamper the gun industry's profits, but then to also pass legislation in return that furthers gun access, that furthers guns in the public space. So when you heard Donald Trump mentioning about concealed carry and these other things, this is a very skillful effort to take these tragedies and turn them into a positive for the gun industry. So now when a high-powered weapon is used at a school and kids are slaughtered and police are hiding, instead of the conversation saying we need to restrict these guns, which was the conversation in the late 80s and the early 90s, instead of that, now you have politicians saying we need to put guns in teachers' hands. We need to put. And so whatever the decision is, whatever the tragedy is, the move now is to pass legislation that even furthers more guns in people's hands, not less. And I just see it all as an outgrowth of this project that had been happening outside of public view for so long.
Well, not out of public view anymore, thanks to Corey Johnson's piece for ProPublica. It's called Without Knowledge or Consent. He is obviously a brilliant reporter who did his work well. He is the recipient of the Pulitzer Prize, and we absolutely celebrate that as we do the story he has brought us with this release of this, again, investigation for ProPublica called Without Knowledge or Consent. Find it, read it in detail for yourself. Corey, congratulations once again on the Pulitzer Prize. Good to have you on this program. Thank you for your time, and happy holidays to you, sir.
Happy holidays to you. Thank you, Tavis, for having me, and thank your audience for listening.
It's been my great honor. Thank you, sir. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know from BIN News. A new poll shows 41% of likely Democratic voters prefer Vice President Kamala Harris as the 2028 presidential nominee over California Governor Gavin Newsom and Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, despite her recent election loss. Texas Governor Greg Abbott announced more giant buoys will be heading to the Rio Grande to deter illegal crossings. The Justice Department